Thank you for joining for the second webinar of our Winter 2025 Living Well Wednesday series. I am Melinda Daly, Family Consumer Science Agent in the Sunflower District, and I will be your host today. This virtual series is focused on a wide variety of essential skills that empower you and your family. During this presentation, please be respectful and open to other thought throughout the presentation. Feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box or into the chat box. The Q&A has an anonymous feature, so feel free to utilize this if you wish. Our chat monitors will watch closely to make sure your questions are answered. Today's presentation will be posted to our Living Well Wednesday homepage. We encourage you to go visit this to see past webinars we've covered. Second slide. K-State Research and Extension is an equal opportunity employer. Therefore, we do not discriminate against anyone. If there is a special request or concern to allow you to participate in our programs, please reach out to us. We are so excited to welcome Ashley Svaty, KSRE Northwest Area FCS Extension Specialist, and Janelle VanKooten with the Kansas SNAP Ed Northwest Regional Specialist. The topic today is Pinchin Pennies in the kitchen. So with that, I will turn it over to the presenters.
Thank you, Melinda. So what if you could save blank dollars per month at the store and it only would take you blank minutes per week? Well, filling in the blanks here will probably look different for each of us because we all have different budgets, we have different schedules, and we have different taste preferences that we're working with. So before we go further, I would just kind of like for you to think about what it might look like for you if you filled in the blanks here. So for reference, if you shop once per week or about 4 times a month and you were to lower your shopping costs by just $12.50 each week, you would save $50 in 1 month. So I am Janelle VanKooten, as Melinda said, and I'm a regional specialist with the SNAP Ed program at K-State Research and Extension. And we're going to visit a bit today about some ideas that may help you kind of fill in these blanks here, and that may help you know what might be an ideal goal for you. So all that we talk about today really stems from, and Ashley, you can go to the next slide. All that we talk about today really stems from the idea that we don't have to do a complete overhaul to save money. I would really encourage you to just kind of pick 1 or 2 adjustments that would work well for you to adopt and make those a good solid habit. Then when you're ready, add another 1 or 2 and get those kind of ingrained into your routine. And that first step that is going to be best to take will be different for each of us here, but we have lots of options that we can explore. And speaking of those options, I do want to thank North Dakota State University for their Pinch and Pennies resources that you will get to see throughout our session, along with some Iowa State University resources that we'll get to share as well. So if we think in terms of goals, we're probably talking about the actual results, but what we are going to focus on today are the systems or those habits that we have in place that we might be able to adjust that can result in us reaching those goals. So what results do you all have in mind that you would like to see after making some adjustments possibly? So in other words, what made you kind of want to join in today? We'd love to hear in the chat if you want to share with us. I'm sure most of you are thinking money. That was kind of the title of our session today, but are there other things you might be thinking of? Thank you. Yes, we see stress in there. I have a lot of people mention time, just saving time when they're at the store. Be more organized. Absolutely. So we will definitely keep those in mind as we move along today, but thank you all for sharing. And These are the categories that we are going to dive into. These are kind of what we're calling our habit categories that really influence the way that we spend money on food. So before we get into those details, I do want to invite you all to either visit the myplate.gov website or at least jot it down, because we are going to explore some tools that are available for free, of course, to you here on this website. And this is also a great way to just keep nutrition and a balanced diet at the forefront of your planning and your shopping and your cooking. The myplate.gov website is based on the USDA's dietary guidelines for Americans. So if you aren't familiar with this image here, this is a great place to really explore and learn more about the dietary guidelines. Specifically, I do want to point out this link here. This is where you will find most of what I mentioned today as far as resources go. And I would just encourage you to explore this healthy eating on a budget section under Eat Healthy. This is what you'll see at the main website of myplate.gov. So let's go ahead and look at the planning process a little bit. I would love to know, what are some of the things you already do that are part of your planning process, that you feel like kind of helps you save money when you're at the store? Even if it's something you don't always do, would love to hear if you want to share in the chat some planning tips you already do or that you've already heard of. Looking at the ads. Anybody else? Looking at ads is a great one. This is what we have here is a common list. Actually, if you want, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. But this list here is a common list of habits that can result in spending less at the store. And yes, now I'm seeing lots of tips come into the chat. Checking the pantry, shopping kind of on a schedule, like once a week. So yeah, it looks like we probably all heard at least some of these before. A lot of them are mentioned in the chat. So really, I am hoping to offer some tools that may help get these tips kind of ingrained as habits for you all. So planning a menu and shopping from a list can be very helpful to some. And the good news is that there are these free resources. There is a free planner available to you online. This one that you see here on the screen is called Create a Grocery Game Plan, and it is from myplate.gov. And it's basically just a weekly calendar that allows you even to type into the document online if you would like to. So this is a fillable form. If you want to type your menu in and then print it, that's an option. So the first recommendation we have in planning is to check your schedule and mark on your actual menu which nights you just won't have much time to do food prep, if any food prep at all. And this really allows you to kind of plan a meal if needed a day or two before that would give you leftovers for your busier nights, or to shop for items that will not take a lot of time to prepare. So once you kind of have a clear picture of how your week is going to look as far as time goes, you can move into the menu selections with our second tip, which is to start with what you have on hand. And that was mentioned in the chat as a tip too. So basically, this is just a recommendation to take an inventory of what you already have and pay special attention to those foods that might be expiring soon. So an example of this might be if you have several pieces of bread on hand. That could go on one of your first days of the menu. So what are we doing with bread? If you have extra bread, you need to get used up and you're putting it on your menu. I know you have lots of ideas for this. In my house, it's probably French toast, or my kids actually really like sandwiches. So that's just kind of an example of how to build on from what you might already have on hand. And then, of course, throughout the entire planning process, you can add your needed items that you don't already have to your shopping list. And right along with that grocery game plan menu calendar tool, we have a list maker. So Ashley can go to the next slide. If you are using your store's app, oops, I think back one more. Sorry. We might be missing a. So that's okay. You can leave it here, but I do want to point out that there is a list maker from myplate.gov, and it is fillable as well. So if you want to type into it and then print it, you have that option as well. Okay. So Ashley, you can stay on the planning slide. Thank you. Okay, so now we have our list tools ready, and it looks like Christina is putting in the chat these resources that I'm mentioning here. So now you can move on to our next tip, which is to shop from the sale flyer. And we already saw that one in the chat as a tip. So here we're basically looking for the things that could work for you and your family that are on sale, and just kind of keep filling in your menu from there. And of course, adding those items to your list as you go along. So anyone want to share what their favorite things are to see on sale when you are trying to plan a menu? I definitely have a couple of favorites and ones that I hear pretty often. I know I'm always looking for the meats that are on sale and the produce to be on sale. That's basically kind of the foundation of my menu planning. So if you have others you like to look for, put those in the chat. I know everyone likes to see others' ideas. Yep, meat and produce too. Coffee, of course. Okay, so moving on to tip number 4, as far as planning goes. So planning to use leftovers can kind of help reduce your food prep time in a couple of ways. Some options might be to double a recipe and freeze some, and I think Ashley will share a little more about that with us here shortly. Then another option would be to or that I often use, is that if we are going to, for example, brown some hamburger for one meal, I will go ahead and plan another meal that includes ground beef, but I cook it all on the same night. I cook it on the first night that we're going to need it, so that it reduces my food prep time on the second night that we are going to need it. So this might look like tacos one night and spaghetti the next, but we are cooking all of the ground beef on taco night and setting half of it to the side for spaghetti the next night. So if you are going to do this or use similar ideas to that, just keep food safety in mind and freeze the extra if you won't be using it all within a couple of days. And then we'll get some more details from Ashley there. But once you kind of have a good foundation of a menu by using what you already have on hand and taking advantage of those great buys that you're finding in the sale flyer, then you can try various options for filling in those remaining blanks. This might be a good time for you to ask your kids to become involved in choosing a meal or looking for a new recipe that you want to try. And Ashley's going to give us some of those as well. So sorry, go ahead. Did someone have a question? Okay, sorry. I think I was just getting an echo. So moving on into the shopping category here. So we can consider ourselves to kind of have a good foundation. We have a menu going now, and we're going to shift into the actual shopping part where we're in the grocery store. So we have our menu, we have a plan, and we've got a list that we are ready to stick to. So what are your grocery store tips? Anyone have tips that they use or that they've heard for when they're in the actual store? You can throw those in the chat. I know a common one is to look to look high and low on the shelves and to not just look at the products that are eye level. Shop the perimeter of the store. Stick to your list, of course. And that planning process helps us do that. So take your coupon. Yes. And that last one there, I'm seeing about shopping hungry. A very common tip is to try and plan your trip to the store when you are less likely to be hungry, because that can definitely influence our selections. It might increase our impulse purchases or those purchases that we weren't really planning on. Okay, thank you for sharing those. Here are just a few things that may help you as you are shopping, along with everything we're seeing in the chat. But we're going to look at these tips that have a lot to do with examining your options once you're at the store a little more closely, so you know exactly what you're getting, and so that you know which is truly the best deal for you and your family based on your specific needs. And we can kind of understand more about the deals that we are getting if we examine the nutrition facts label, because serving sizes do matter, and of course the ingredients matter. So you might actually find a product that is a tad bit cheaper, but if you were to compare the ingredients, you might find that one has added sugar or salt, for example, when the other one does not, or vice versa. So the other one, of course, is the unit pricing, but let's dive into the nutrition fact label first. And our friends at Iowa State University have a very helpful guide for reading a food label. So we'll check this out real quick.
The nutrition facts label provides information that can help you make decisions about the foods you eat. Here are some tips to help you use the information you find on the label. Start at the top and look at how many servings of the food are in the package. There are 8 servings in this package. Next, look at how big the serving size is. We can see for this item, the serving size is 1 cup. Pay attention to the size and number of servings you eat or drink, as it may be bigger or smaller than the serving size listed. Below the serving size is calories. The thing to remember with calories is that you may consume more or less than what is listed on the label based on the number of servings you eat. For example, if you ate 2 cups of this food item, you would be consuming 460 calories. Everyone has different amounts of calories they need for their body, so choose what is right for you. The label also shows some key nutrients that impact your health. Saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars are nutrients listed on the label that people generally consume too much of and can lead to negative health effects. These are nutrients to get less of. On the other hand, dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium are nutrients that people generally do not get the recommended amount of and are important for good health. These are called nutrients to get more of. One way to help you determine if a food is a high or low source of a nutrient is to look at the percent daily value. The percent daily value shows how much a nutrient in a serving of food contributes to the daily recommended amount. For example, a serving of this food provides 7% of the recommended amount of sodium for the day. A general guide to percent daily value is 5% DV or less is considered low. 20% DV or more is considered high. More often, choose foods that are higher in percent daily value for dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium. And choose foods that are lower in percent daily value for saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars. The next time you go to the store, use these tips to help you choose foods to best meet your nutrition needs.
So as you can see, there is a lot that we can learn from the food label, and we all have unique needs that might kind of guide us to focus on different components of the food label. But is there anything in particular that is sticking out to you about the food label, especially if you aren't, if it's not already one of your habits to really kind of look at the food label? If there's anything you want to share there, We'd love to see that in the chat. I know I'm often surprised when looking at the food labels about the added sugars and how much just two brands of the same product can really differ. And sodium would be another one. Yep, sodium. Just kind of looking in the chat there, but go ahead and keep putting your thoughts there in the chat. We'd love to see those. But now I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Ashley. I think she is ready to go with even more tips for our Pinch and Pennies session.
I am ready to go. Thank you, Janelle, and thank you all for joining us today. I know I'm always looking for ways to save money in the kitchen, in the grocery store. So I'm glad you guys are joining us and wanting to soak in all this information that we have to share with you. I'm Ashley Swaty, and I am the Northwest Family and Consumer Sciences Specialist for K-State Research and Extension. And I am going to dive right in and go on to unit pricing. So this is all about comparing apples to apples here on what our best deal is. So I want to share a resource here because I don't know if I'm the only one here, but when I'm grocery shopping and I want to compare two different items, and I'm having to convert ounces to pounds or grams, it's just it can be a little overwhelming, and especially if I'm in a hurry at the grocery store. So I just find what I think is the best deal and put it in the cart and go on my way. Is anybody else with me on that, or can you convert easily in your head? Well, for those of you who are like me, who kind of can't convert as quickly as maybe some others, I want to share a unit price calculator with you that Iowa State has on their app. So I'm going to show you this video to entice you to possibly download the app. Show you this video first.
We named it Spend Smart, Eat Smart for a reason. We offer nutrition tips and recipes that'll make your taste buds and wallet smile. Use our app's unit price calculator to compare prices between similar products with different sizes, different forms, and different brands, so you can get more for your money at the grocery store. See you later, mental math in the cereal aisle. By finding the cost per ounce or whatever unit of measure, you get the best bang for your buck and you won't be tricked by sale signs. Just download the Spend Smart, Eat Smart app from the Apple or Android store and go to the unit price calculator on the homepage. Say you're trying to decide between fresh or frozen spinach. Type in the cost of the fresh spinach and the weight or volume of the product, in this case, 10 ounces. Then enter the same info for the bag of frozen on the other side. Ta-da! The cost per unit is automatically calculated and the best deal is determined. Congrats! Your cheesy lasagna just cooked up savings. Speaking of cheese, do you need to know if you should go with chunk or shredded? We've got you covered. Just keep in mind how much food your family eats before going to the register, because sometimes it makes more sense to buy small and avoid waste, even when it costs more per unit. And as appetites change, so do prices. So, pull up the app every time you shop, so you can spend smart and eat smart. Why not check us out before you hit the checkout?
All right, have you guys ever heard of this app before, or a unit pricing app? I see someone uses the price label on the shelf. Yes, I have used that too. And sometimes it's still different units. So, but yes, those are really handy if they are available. So I wanted to show you guys a real life example here using this app. And if you are like Ashley, I really don't want to download another app. I'm right there with you. I had just upgraded my phone, but I have been there where I have no room on my phone for any more apps. But I want to show you how cool this app is. It has this unit calculator. It has weekly or monthly tips, and it has recipes on there for you. So I want to show you this real life example of onions. And I know a lot of people don't like to chop onions, but when we look at the cost savings here for convenience versus do-it-yourself chopping, we can really see a huge cost savings here. So for $2.99, we can purchase 6 ounces of chopped onions, or we can purchase 1 pound of onions for 69 cents. And this onions little clip is a little blurry because I clipped it from my current sale ad right now to show you that this is real life what these cost. So you could get 4.33 pounds for the same price of that 6 ounces if you just chop them at home. So I went and I got these onions because this is a really good deal. So I was shopping for cereal and I compared 2 different brands with this tool. So you can really compare anything with this tool. As you can see up here, I just typed in the total cost of both of these items, the number of units. So this was 6 ounces and this was 1 pound. It does all the converting for you. So we compare about 50 cents per ounce to 4 cents an ounce. So I will gladly chop my onions for that cost savings there. All right, so now let's chat about shopping for fruits and vegetables, because it is possible to eat nutritiously on a budget using these tips. Start by shopping your store's sale items, as Janelle mentioned before, and this will help guide you in the right direction to save the money on fruits and veggies, focusing on those ones that are on sale. And look for the sales, and don't be afraid to switch up a fruit or veggie in a recipe if another similar item is on sale. I have done this before. Like if a fruit salad called for strawberries and maybe raspberries or another fruit were on sale and cheaper, I will swap it out. No reason to pay double because I'm really going to eat it anyway. So I do that all the time. I will just swap something out for a cheaper option. So let's check out the list on the left of the screen and look at the spring fruits and veggies. So these are the fruits and veggies that are in season, most likely in our area, from the American Heart Association. So you may notice that you've seen some of these items on sale or at a reduced price lately as they become to get into season. So I have noticed squash and zucchini, and now grapes are getting a little cheaper. So when you're needing to purchase out of season produce and want another option rather than fresh, there you can always choose frozen, canned, or even dried, and use that app and that unit price calculator to really figure out how much of a cost saving and what the best option is. Now, some recipes, you can't swap them out as easy, but then you can swap out a different fruit for another fruit, but maybe not like a frozen. It'll all just really depend on the recipe, but be open to it because you can really save a lot of money by not buying in-season produce. And then the last tip here is check for if your stores have marked down fresh produce. Check those out if you're planning to use those in your meals in the next couple days. And this is a great way to find a deal while also reducing food waste. I do this all the time. And sometimes if I have, let's say, peppers in my cart, and I find marked down peppers and I'm planning to, say, make fajitas that night, I will put the regular price peppers back and get the marked down peppers because I'm going to use them that night. So just be flexible and keep your eyes peeled for those deals in the grocery store. So now for more shopping tips, take the time to make a list and stick with it. And we're pretty serious about that. An extra item here or there can add $20+ now. I was kind of thinking of maybe some of the non-essentials that my family might want and that I might just throw in the cart. Well, those really add up now. So $20+ each week. Think of that in a year, how much that could save you if you just stick to the list and stick with what you have meal planned. And then check out those fruits and veggies on sale, and then try new ones when they're on sale and in season to see if you like them, rather than kind of getting a little more adventurous when they're out of season and you want to try fresh produce. Try them when they're in season. And then try store brands instead of name brands, and you may be surprised on what you can swap out to save a few dollars. I know some people might not uh, be on board with this one. Some do taste a little different, but be open to the idea of trying store brands and cheaper brands and see if you like them. You'll win sometimes, but sometimes your family will only like one kind, and I get it. Then consider buying some items in bulk, such as meat, as Janelle was talking about, oatmeal, rice, pasta, canned goods when they're on sale. You can freeze the meat and utilize it in the future. Like she was saying, tacos and spaghetti. I do that all the time when I think about it. I try and do that more. But those ideas can really help you save more than just pennies in the kitchen. So when we meal prep, we could save time and money. And then the final tip we've got for you is to watch the prices at the checkout to ensure that everything is ringing up correctly. Because if you do all this work, if you planned it, if you take the time to find all the deals and your items don't ring up correctly, that can be a bummer. And so catch that at the checkout so that you can make that quick change. Because that's kind of the worst when you get home and realize that something rang up a little more expensive. So now let's dive into the cooking and the kitchen aspect of this presentation. So I really want to stress that we all have to start somewhere in the kitchen, whether you're new at cooking at home or if you've been cooking at home for decades. It's really important to understand that learning new skills in the kitchen takes time and practice, and there's really no reason to be intimidated when it comes to cooking at home. Have fun with it and don't be afraid to try new things. It's not going to be perfect, and there's really no reason for it to be perfect. So let's dive into some of these tips. I think a little too many. So really the best way to save time and money in the kitchen is to practice, practice, practice. You're going to become more efficient with your cooking and knife skills, and then having the knowledge and confidence when it comes to cutting and measuring in the kitchen will allow you to dive in and try your hand at new things in the kitchen and actually cook from scratch, which can be really intimidating for some people. So I want to share some resources we have for you to utilize after this webinar is through to help you navigate the kitchen when it comes to choosing utensils, measuring liquids, measuring solids, and understanding cooking terms that you might see in recipes. Especially if you're new to cooking, just as I was reading through these resources, I reviewed and learned new things. So don't be afraid to learn new things in the kitchen. And if you all have any skills or any tips in the kitchen that are time savers and money savers, share those with us, because we cannot share them all in this 30-40 minute webinar. So feel free to share with everybody else so we can learn from each other. Okay, having the right tools on hand and understanding how to use them will allow you to cook at home more easily. We all have to start somewhere, as I was saying, and these sheets can be found on our KSRE resources cooking page, and look through them and I can guarantee you'll learn something like I did too. So these measuring tools and how to use them, this goes through abbreviations, equivalents for liquid and dry measuring, and then just overall tips on how to use them. Okay. Now, when talking about just getting started in the kitchen and cooking at home, I thought that knife safety and just showing how to use knives would be good for beginners. So we're going to dive in and show you guys another video from Iowa State University on knife safety.
Hi, I'm Tom from Iowa State University Extension Outreach. Knives are very important tools when we're cooking, but it's important that we use them safely. It's important that we select knives that we feel comfortable using. Paring knives are great for small things such as strawberries and a lot of that small detailed work, whereas chef knives
Oh gosh, sorry guys.
are good for large fruits and vegetables, cuts of meat, and a lot of other things. They're available in a variety of sizes, so typically you're going to see a 8-inch chef knife, but they're also available in 10-inch or 6-inch, so pick the size that makes sense for your hand. It's important that we think about the word safety when we are using a knife in the kitchen. The first thing is securely hold your knife. Too often people are holding their knife too far back and using their thumb. This can be very hard on your wrist, and also you have a lack of control. So it's important to hold your knife up near the hilt. You have a lot more strength and control. It's important that we anchor our cutting board. If we don't anchor our cutting board, it tends to slide around a lot, which can create unpredictability, and you're more likely to cut yourself. So a quick tip is to use a damp cloth towel or paper towel and put it underneath your cutting board, which anchors it and holds it in place. Fingertips should be curled back. So when we are cutting, we want to make sure that we're not accidentally cutting ourselves. So we are going to use the claw method. So when we're chopping, we're keeping our fingers out of the way. Eyes on your knife. It's very important that we are watching what we are doing. There can be a lot of distractions when we're cooking, and so we need to make sure that we are paying attention to the knife. Take your time. There's no need to rush. It's really important that we stay safe when we're working in the kitchen. And yield to falling knives. Sometimes it can be very tempting to try and catch something as it falls, but it's really important that if a knife falls, we get back, let it fall, and we don't attempt to try and catch it. It's also suggested to use closed-toed shoes when we're in the kitchen. Remember to use knives safely, and happy cooking.
All right, sorry about that little pause in there. I was trying to write in the chat. But did you guys learn anything from that video? The first time I watched that video, I learned that I should be anchoring my cutting board. I thought that was a really good tip. Put a damp cloth down so that it's not wiggling all over the place. So if you learned anything else from that video on knife safety, share it in the chat. Yeah, I was trying to type in the chat during that video, so learning about that too. So now, probably what some of you guys came here for are the recipes. I will share a few recipes as we wrap up this presentation and incorporate many of the tips that we have shared to show you how it all comes together. I will cover breakfasts, lunch, and a couple suppers, and also incorporate some planned leftovers and freezing tips. And I really did have fun with choosing these recipes, finding some that utilized sale items and talking about that unit pricing. So I hope you find these enjoyable too. Okay. To start out, I want to show another resource about making a recipe with what's on hand. And this is a K-State Research and Extension resource. It shows you how to make a meal as kind of a roadmap. So choosing a protein, vegetable, starch, liquid, and then some flavors. So with this, I decided to kind of make a quick chicken noodle soup to show you an example of this. You can have a pound of chicken, so using leftover chicken or fresh chicken that you have used earlier on in the week. That's what I usually do with my chicken noodle soup. If I have leftover chicken from another dish earlier in the week, like soup, that's perfect for using that chicken. Veggies for chicken noodle soup, some chopped celery, carrots, and onions, starch. Those are going to be the whole wheat egg noodles. Liquid will be some water and reduced sodium broth, and then flavors. You can add whatever flavor you want with your chicken noodle soup that your family enjoys. It could be garlic, pepper, parsley, thyme, you name it. You get creative on whatever you want. Okay, and now for the recipes. All of these recipes I'm sharing are from that Spend Smart, Eat Smart from Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. So this is a peanut butter banana smoothie. They have a lot of oatmeal recipes, and if you are into oatmeal, oatmeal is usually pretty reasonably priced, and you could get a lot for your money. So I did want to show you a non-oatmeal recipe for breakfast, but keep in mind how nutritious and cost-friendly oatmeal is also. So with this peanut butter banana smoothie, a frozen banana, 1 container of vanilla yogurt, half cup of non-fat milk, peanut butter, optional cocoa powder, optional chia seeds, and optional ice cubes if you want it really cold. So with this, I wanted to talk, I highlighted in red the 1 container of vanilla yogurt. This is where I use the unit calculator and look on the little price tags on how much per unit or how much per ounce is the best deal and for yogurt. Because sometimes the little individual size containers are cheaper than if you would buy the container with multiple servings in it. So that's where you'll want to look at that. And then this recipe is fantastic to use for those bananas that are kind of getting pretty ripe that you won't eat fresh. So you can chop those up and put them in your freezer so that you are always ready for a peanut butter banana smoothie or a strawberry smoothie, whatever kind of smoothie you want. So I have a pretty good habit of doing this or making banana bread or something, but utilizing that produce before it does go bad. So how does this one sound? A peanut butter banana smoothie for a go-to breakfast. I think it sounds pretty good. Okay, and now I wanted to show you a quick and doable lunch option for you all to try. Some people like tuna, some don't. If you don't like tuna, I encourage you to go to this website and find another lunch recipe you do like. But this spicy tuna recipe from Iowa State can be made spicy or more mild, depending on the salsa and the peppers that you choose. So you could do bell peppers or jalapeno peppers, whatever you would wish to use. And then you could put this on bread to make a sandwich or on salad greens for a quick and nutritious lunch. So and some food safety that I have thrown into each of these recipes is to always remember to wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds. And then if you do not eat it all, get that back in the refrigerator as quickly as possible. Store these leftovers in the refrigerator for up to 4 days. That's a good general rule on how long leftovers should be in your fridge. Now, supper is split pea soup. This is an excellent meal that allows for leftovers and to help take care of that additional meal. So if you want to cook something early on in the week and then you know that maybe later on in the week you can put it in the refrigerator, or later on in the month you can put it in the freezer, maybe if your kids have sports or you have something to do in the evening, that is a very quick planned leftover to make your busy night less chaotic. So you at least have supper planned. So this can really be made in a snap if you have everything on hand. So having a well-stocked pantry, having the broth on hand, split peas, bags of beans or peas and rice on hand, or even canned peas and beans on hand, that will really, really speed things up. You can have these frozen items, frozen celery, carrots, and ham, or fresh, whatever is more cost saving and convenient for you. And then this ham down here could really be swapped out for whatever protein you have. I know after holidays, a lot of people will have extra ham or turkey or chicken. So you can use this recipe to use some of that up too, but really, really tasty and really quick too. In 30 minutes, you've got a good soup there. And now this chili recipe is another one from Iowa State, and this can be served with shredded cheese, sour cream, or plain yogurt or crackers. And it is important to note that this recipe is higher in sodium, as many soups are with broth or canned items, but you can use low or no sodium beans, tomato sauce, and diced tomatoes to reduce the sodium, or use fresh diced tomatoes. That will help. So I wanted to show recipes that are easy to freeze, make double batches, or cook in a slow cooker. And this recipe really checks all of those boxes. This can easily go in a slow cooker if you cook the ground meat ahead of time and make sure it's thawed out. And this is a thick chili, so if you want to stir in a little water to thin it out, you can definitely do that too. Okay, and now whenever we are in the kitchen, we really need to focus on food safety. So each year, millions of people get sick from foodborne illness, which can cause you to feel like you have the flu. And if you've ever had food poisoning, foodborne illness, whatever you'd like to call it, you know it's no fun. And I don't want to have that again. So it can be very serious and cause serious health problems and can lead to death in some cases. So follow these 4 steps to food safety to keep you and your family safe. So we have clean, separate, cook, and chill. So we will start with keeping our kitchen and hands clean. So wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, and do this before and after touching food. You also want to wash your cutting boards, dishes, forks, spoons, knives, and countertops with hot soapy water, and do this after each food item too. And then rinse your fruits and veggies with water before you cut into them. And this also goes for watermelons and cantaloupes, anything that you cut into the rind. Rinse those and scrub those really, really well, like you would scrub a potato. And don't wash meat, poultry, fish, and eggs, because if water splashes from the sink in the process of washing, it can spread bacteria from that meat onto your countertops. And next is separate. So we want to keep raw foods to themselves. Germs can spread from one food to another, so we want to keep raw meat, poultry, seafood, and eggs away from other foods. And not only do this in the kitchen, but do this in the shopping cart, bags, and in your fridge too. And don't reuse marinades used on raw foods unless you can bring them to a boil first. And then it might be a good habit to use a special cutting board or a plate for raw foods only. And now we are next to cooking. We are cooking now. Cook to safe temperatures. So beef, pork, and lamb, cook those to 145 degrees. Fish is also at 145. Ground beef, pork, and lamb, 160 degrees. Turkey, chicken, and duck, 165 degrees. And you have to use a food thermometer to make sure that food is done, because you can't always tell by looking. Some people say that they can, but truly the only way that you could tell if food has hit the safe internal temperature is by that food thermometer. So if you do not have one, I highly recommend it. And now finally, it's time to chill and put all the food back in the refrigerator right away. So remember the 2-hour rule. So you want to put foods in the refrigerator or freezer within 2 hours after cooking or buying it from the store. So when you go to the store and you might have a drive, pack the cooler bags, pack coolers and ice packs, keep that temperature down, and do this within an hour if it's 90 degrees or hotter outside. And never thaw food by simply taking it out of the fridge. Thaw food safely in the refrigerator, under cold water, and in the microwave. And then marinate foods in the refrigerator, not at room temperature. So that was a lot there, but I think Christina put in another resource there for you to go check it out after we're done. So now we want to see what you guys will create after learning so much today. If you have downloaded the Spend Smart, Eat Smart app, let us know and go ahead and check out the recipes and type in some that you will want to try out. If you don't have the app, check out the website and let us know what recipes might catch your eye. I only shared a handful. They have a lot of different recipes to really suit anybody's needs. So, I also want to mention that you don't need to create or find new recipes to save money. Think of ways that you can reduce the cost of your go-to recipes by using these tips that we gave you today. So, does anybody have any recipes that they found that look pretty appetizing for them? If so, add them to the chat, but I'm going to hand this back off to Janelle. But thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you, Ashley. A lot of good ideas there. I'm probably going to have that peanut butter smoothie today, I think. So yeah, a lot of tips today. We've seen multiple options for some adjustments that you might be able to make in your habits that influence the way you spend money and how much money you spend on food. So we really just want to bring you back to that idea that success is most likely to happen when you focus on the small habits and then work on kind of building on each habit. So with all the options that we covered and some new tools that we used, what are a couple habits that you could see as a good focus for you that might result in reaching some of those goals that you had in mind today, or even before you got on today? We'd love to hear in the chat what really stuck out to you. If there's a particular habit you're going to try and focus on or adjust. And as you put those in the chat, I just want to remind you that any change that you make is worth celebrating every time you do it. So if you make a menu this week, make sure to tell yourself how fantastic you are for accomplishing something that you set out to do, because it's a thing, you guys. Habits are more likely to stick if you do kind of celebrate them. So pat yourself on the back if you make any adjustments here. And I love seeing your tips come in on the chat. And yes, there's one even there about using cash so that you have to stick to your budget and reduce those impulse buys. So we just appreciate you all being on here. But before we go, I do want to leave you with an invitation, and that is that we invite you all to visit your local extension office wherever you are. We love connecting with you and our community members and sharing information. And then I also want to mention that we do have free SNAP Ed classes available to anyone that either receives SNAP or is eligible to receive SNAP. This would also include those eligible for similar programs such as WIC or free and reduced school lunches, programs of that nature. So we'd love to have you join us at our free SNAP Ed nutrition classes as well. And of course, you can find out more from our website. And then we would love to have your feedback if you would be willing to give us your feedback through our survey. And we'd love to hear any questions you might have as well. But if not, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you for our next Living Well session.
I want to thank all of you for attending, and thanks to Ashley and Janelle for their presentation. Your opinions are valuable to us, and we would like for you to let us know what you thought about today's program. Please complete the survey and share other topics you would like us to cover. Stay tuned for our next webinar on April 9th, which will be covering the topic Money Habitudes. Also, be sure to check out our Living Well Wednesday website to view all past webinars. Thanks for joining us today.